All right, what's up? It's Jordan's Corner back again. Just got done with the Arnold last week, and it was kind of a bummer on the third deadlift, but it was a really cool experience. Definitely gonna try to do it again this next year. Um, Also, let's see what else happened. Oh, lost my car this week in a tidal wave, tidal flooding rather. So that was kind of a bummer, but yeah, we're making it through it. I'm leaving on Friday for vacation for a couple of days, so thought I'd come back talk to you guys real quick about coconut oil and MCT oil specifically. So let's first talk about it. Coconut oil is not the same as MCT oil. MCT oils, that's medium chain triglycerides. Those are basically fatty acids that are less than 12 carbons in length. So a long chain fatty acid would be higher than that. And if I remember correctly, short chain fatty acids are less than 8 carbons long. And probably the most common one that we take in on a daily basis for the short chain fatty acids are the breakdown products of butter. Real butter is butyric acid, I believe, is a 8 carbon or less fatty acid. So anyway, medium chain triglycerides are less than 12 carbons long, and these have been getting a lot of press lately because the research that's been done on MCT oil, I make the distinction, it's MCT oil, not coconut oil. The research has been saying that it increases or helps preserve lean body mass, increases basal metabolic rate and metabolism, and helps people lose weight. And these things are true. MCT oil tends to be absorbed, it is absorbed directly from the GI tract and goes to the portal system, aka the liver. It doesn't require any breakdown or packaging, whereas long chain fatty acids do, so it's absorbed way more rapidly with no intermediary steps. And then it's either used in the liver as fuel to develop ketone bodies or used elsewhere almost immediately for energy. That is, it cannot, almost definitely, cannot be stored as adipose tissue, which is fat tissue in the body. Versus when you compare this to like a long chain fatty acid, it needs to go in, get into the small intestine. It needs to be broken down into free fatty acids and monoglycerides, and then absorbed and packaged into these things called chylomicrons, and those gets transported all over the body. And anyway, the long chain fatty acids can, if the conditions are right in the body, be stored as adipose tissue, as fat. So it's not that eating fat makes you fat, it's just that eating too much fat, well, it could contribute to you fixing these breakdown products, the monoglycerides and free fatty acids, into adipose tissue or fat. So ideally, you would want more fat being burned than being stored, this kind of fat flux, if you were trying to lose weight. So the good thing about MCT oil is that particular fat cannot be stored as fat. So the idea is that since it cannot be stored that way, that it's increasing the flux out. And that's kind of a misinterpretation. So what really happens, MCT oil is burned as fuel, usually by the liver, which produces ketone bodies, which get burned by skeletal muscle, your muscles, which prevents protein breakdown because now they have an energy source, the ketones. And it also kind of increases the metabolism just a little bit. And we think this is because of the inefficient nature of some very, very cellular level things that are happening, like proton transport and ATP production. But anyway, metabolism is increased, and so if we're burning more calories now because the metabolism is up, well, yes, it's going to make you lose more weight when compared to a longer chain fat source, which is what the study shows. That is, if you replace your long chain fat source, such as olive oil, with an MCT oil, and the calories remain the same, well, you lose more weight using MCT oil. And then now I need to make the distinction that MCT oil is not the same as coconut oil. Coconut oil is 60% MCT oil and 40% long chain fatty acids, so it's not 100% MCT oil. And in fact, the studies done in coconut oil, when I say studies, Medline and PubMed did not result in a bunch of data. So this is a very, very preliminary thing. I'm sure more studies are coming out or will be coming out talking about coconut oil, but they did not show any weight loss when they replaced fats with coconut oil. So basically, the calories are held the same, just the fat source changes, and they didn't show any positive benefit based on weight. And this might be because it's only 60% MCT oil, it might be because the study's bad, it might be due to a number of things, This doesn't mean that coconut oil is bad. It just means that it, in and of itself, will not help you lose weight. At the end of the day, it still does come down to calories, especially if the metabolism isn't changing as much as it did with the MCT oil. Remember, we said the MCT oil bumps up metabolism a little bit, so that helps, and it also prevents skeletal muscle breakdown. I guess on this hierarchy, I really, really like short chain and medium chain fatty acids to be the main fat sources during dieting protocols. That is, I like butter, I like coconut oil, and MCT oil during dieting stages, in addition to your essential fatty acids from fish. But anyway, if you've read any of my stuff, you know that I don't really recommend a lot of fat around pre and post workout meals, and a lot of it has to do with, well, okay, I would prefer to get a lot of carbohydrates in pre and post workout. Pre-workout, I don't want any fat slowing down the transit. I want you to have a lot of energy ready to go. And two, when we're taking in all these carbohydrates, the carbohydrate load usually tells you how much insulin you're going to release. And I don't think that insulin's the boogeyman. I don't think it's bad. And I don't think it's just, oh, if you release a little bit of insulin, all fat burning stops. But what it is, if you're taking in fat with those meals, then you're actually going to slow down the transport of carbohydrates into the blood system, which you want during this hard workout. Post-workout, you really want to get the carbohydrates into the skeletal muscle so you can start recovery, and you don't want to fix any of these extra fatty acids that you're taking in as fat tissue. So that recommendation holds true unless you're using coconut oil or MCT oil, which again will not get stored as fat. Although here's the caveat. So yes, it is true that MCT oil and coconut oil don't get stored as fat. That's fine. But if you're using them for energy, which they get almost immediately burned as energy right off the bat, so you stop using glucose, carbohydrates, and your other free fatty acids that are floating around the bloodstream, you're actually going to take those other things and turn them into fat, fix them as fat. So it's not that MCT oil or coconut oil are these miracle cures, miracle things. They just they have some really good science behind kind of how they work, but the whole process hasn't been elucidated just yet. So, in conclusion, the short stuff. Sorry, it's getting kind of long. MCT oil, coconut oil, it's all good stuff. Just don't add that fat on top of your diet. You would want to replace the current fat that you're taking in with that stuff to get the health benefits. It should be noted, people are going to talk about, oh, it's saturated fat, it's 92% saturated. Well, isn't that bad? Well, it does raise your HDL and LDL, which, by the way, aren't cholesterol. Those are actually proteins, just in case you were wondering. They're lipoproteins. And but what it does to the LDL particle size, it makes them fluffier, which makes them less atherogenic. So don't let people scare you into saying, oh, it'll increase your risk factor for cardiovascular disease. That's not entirely true. So yeah, the take home is replace your fats if you want to with MCT and coconut oil. It's good stuff. I prefer MCT oil to coconut oil, but you can cook in coconut oil. Haven't tried cooking in MCT oil just yet. So anyway, thanks for watching. We're going to come back to you next time with a podcast on carbohydrates. See you guys.